On a campus where you may be minutes, hours, days away from home, one group seeks to bring your comfort zone to you. The Minnesota International Student Association is a place where home is seconds away, and the opportunity to learn from one another is always present. MISA prides itself on allowing international as well as local students to explore different cultures while at the same time promoting their own. In an atmosphere full of discussion and open-mindedness, MISA does more than just give students a place to socialize. MISA delivers a sense of comfort the university on its own could not oblige. However, the international student community continues to be one of the main audiences that the organization aims toward. This year, within the Twin Cities campus of the University of Minnesota, there are more than 4,500 international students. The population of this community has been expanding since the early 1950s, which marks the early years of the International Student and Scholar Services, ISSS, Minnesota International Center, MIC, and Minnesota International Student Association, MISA, which continues to be, up until today, the major organizations and agents that promote internationalization of education. In 1950, the International Student and Scholar Services, or ISSS, was known as the Office of International Education. The director at the time was Forrest Moore, a forerunner of international education. A young graduate student, Joseph Meschenhauser, applied for a half-time job as an international student advisor.
He came here already to the office of what was called then the Foreign Student Advisor. And I had quite a bit of experience in student life, before I was heavily involved in student movement in Czechoslovakia. I was the General Secretary of the National Student Association, and then also the Secretary of the Law Student Association. And we managed our own exchange programs, mostly with French speaking, because Czechoslovakia was heavily influenced by the French influence, like Vietnam too was heavily involved. And so with this kind of experience, I had some ideas about what needed to be done. And when I got this job in the Foreign Student Office, it was a half-time position. I paid $110 a month and free tuition. My idea was that what needed to be done to further some of the educational goals would not be possible on half-time. And so my boss was Forrest Moore, who was very foresighted individual, and he reported to the Dean of Students.
He quickly realized how tough the situation was for international students. There were over 1,000 international students, but there was hardly any organization that provided support for this large community. These international students had to face several problems regarding culture, language, and many other things. After Meschenhauser got promoted into a full-time position, two extraordinary individuals, Michael Page and Kay Thomas, joined the faculty.
That summer, there was a joint appointment in the College of Education as an assistant professor and the ISAO, or ISSS, as an international student advisor. I thought, well, I can't think of a job that, I'm probably the only person in the world who could actually do this. I decided on my because I kind of done a little bit of all of that, and I thought, well, this would be nice because it'll combine my academic side in international development education with my kind of pragmatic or practical side, which is doing intercultural training. What a nice job. And I really felt it was just calling my name, so I applied and I got it. And Joe Meschenhauser was the one who hired me. He was the hiring guy. He was my first, shortly to be my boss. He wasn't right immediately, but in '79, Forrest Moore, very well known, the late Forrest Moore, very well known international educator, one of the founders of NAFSA, stepped down, and Dr. Meschenhauser became the director of the ISSS, and I became, later on, Kay and I became associate or assistant, I can't remember, but assistant directors and Kay Thomas's for counseling and advising, in my case, for international training and education. We actually had an office that had those components in it.
These three quickly became involved with the community of international students. After this came an era where international education flourished. At this time, several projects were initiated in order to help international students to adapt to the university, including the creation of MISA. Coming up next, how and why MISA was created. Joseph Mechtenhauser tells his story about the International Student Council and the origin of MISA. Thorun describes her experience working with MISA in 1988. Michael Page reveals what was behind the creation of the organization. Next episode will be out on September 20th.
It's an opportunity for those ladies to really transcend a lot of the, whatever their background is. And this is, rather than being broken.
And so you are one dance. So let's say that I'm a tango dancer. And I'm working with somebody in MISA who's actually a hip-hop dancer. How do you find a way to work together? And that's kind of the magic.